The desert doesn't always kill you with heat. Sometimes it waits for your next mistake. One wrong decision, one man with too much power. And suddenly, survival isn't enough anymore. Welcome to KTS Mosan, because out here, the real predator isn't the wilderness. It's the person standing right beside you. At the beginning of today's story, we see a small house sitting alone in the middle of a scorching, desolate stretch of desert. A young man named Ben lives there with his girlfriend. Ben works as a tour guide, leading visitors through this vast and dangerous desert landscape because people travel from all over to experience it. His life is simple, quiet, and everything seems completely normal for now. Ben's girlfriend wants to move to the city so she can continue her education. She asks Ben to come with her, but he politely refuses. He loves the peaceful life out here, and this is where his job is. Before she leaves, Ben hands her a handgun and says, "Promise me something. Every night before you go to sleep, keep this under your pillow for your own safety." She smiles and promises she will. Then she heads off to the city. After she leaves, Ben struggles with the loneliness and misses her more than ever. But neither of them realizes this goodbye is about to change everything. Not long after, the sheriff from a nearby town calls Ben in. He tells him that a wealthy businessman named Madek, who lives in Los Angeles, is looking for the best guide in the area. Madek wants to hunt a desert bighorn sheep, a rare animal that's incredibly difficult to track and hunt. He's offering Ben an unbelievable $8,000 for a single day's work. No one has ever offered Ben that much money before. So, without giving it much thought, he accepts the job. Sometimes the biggest paycheck comes with the highest price. When Ben steps outside, he sees Madek's hunting party waiting. Hunting is legal here, but only for people carrying properly licensed firearms. Soon, the two of them head deep into the most dangerous part of the desert where the hunt will take place. By then, the sun has completely set and night has fallen. They build a campfire and spend the evening talking. The desert feels peaceful, but the silence carries its own warning. Ben tells Madek about his girlfriend, who has recently moved to the city. Then he opens up about his parents. He explains that when he was a child, the three of them became stranded in this very desert after their vehicle broke down. They waited for days, hoping someone would find them, but no help ever came. Under the relentless heat, his mother kept covering his face with her lipstick to protect his skin from the blazing sun. It helped save Ben, but his parents couldn't survive the lack of water. He watched both of them die right in front of him. Some memories never leave you, no matter how many years pass. As Ben finishes telling the story, he's overwhelmed with emotion. Eventually, the two of them turn in for the night. The next morning, as soon as the sun comes up, they head out to begin the hunt. Along the way, Madek suddenly starts firing random shots for no reason. Ben immediately realizes he has absolutely no hunting experience. Frustrated, he asks, "Who gave you a hunting license?" Madek arrogantly replies, "I don't have one. I have money. I don't need a license." And with those words, everything begins to feel dangerously wrong. Ben explains that hunting here with an unlicensed firearm is completely illegal. But before he can say anything else, Madek pulls out a thick stack of cash and hands it to him. Ben falls silent, pockets the money, and keeps moving. Money doesn't erase the law, it only buries it for a while. The two of them climb to the top of a massive rock formation. Ben scans the desert through his binoculars, searching for a desert bighorn sheep, but after a long time, he still can't find anything. Meanwhile, Madek keeps interrupting him like an amateur. Then, without any warning, Madek suddenly fires his rifle. Ben never told him to take the shot. One careless pull of the trigger changes everything in an instant. They rush toward the sound and discover an elderly local prospector lying on the ground, bleeding from a gunshot wound. Ben knows the old man well and immediately tries to help him. He runs back to the truck to grab the first aid kit. At the same time, Madek stands there in shock, realizing the terrible mistake he's just made. For the first time, the hunt is no longer about an animal. Madek realizes he's just committed a serious crime. He immediately calls one of his associates and tells him everything, admitting that he's in deep trouble. The man on the phone tells him to shoot the victim one more time, but not with his own gun. He tells him to use Ben's rifle instead. Madek does exactly that. One decision turns an accident into something far more dangerous. The second gunshot sends Ben running back. He sees that the old man now has 2 bullet wounds. Furious, Ben demands to know why Madek did it. Madek calmly replies, "I didn't do this alone. You fired one shot and I fired the other. That means we're both responsible for his death." Then immediately realizes Madek staged everything to protect himself and drag him into the crime. Now the truth is buried beneath fear, money, and manipulation. Madek then tries to buy Ben's silence. He promises to pay him $300,000 every year if he never tells anyone what happened. He also offers to get him into a university so he can move to the city and live with his girlfriend. Thinking about the money and his future, Ben reluctantly agrees. The deal sounds like salvation, but it's really the beginning beginning of a nightmare. The two of them bury the old man's body in the sand. After saying a prayer for him, they return to their truck. There, Maddock casually wastes water by washing his face. Ben hates seeing that, because water is incredibly scarce in this unforgiving desert. Out here, every single drop of water can mean the difference between life and death. Ben quietly walks over to his backpack. Inside, he has a small emergency communication device that can send a distress message. Just before he can alert the sheriff, Maddock spots him from behind and immediately points a gun at him. Trust disappears the moment Maddock sees what Ben is trying to do. Maddock angrily reminds Ben that they had a deal, that Ben would never tell anyone what happened. He accuses him of breaking that agreement, then stomps on the emergency device until it's completely destroyed. Keeping the gun aimed at Ben, he coldly orders him, "Take off all your clothes." And in that instant, Ben realizes the nightmare is only getting worse. Ben has no choice if he wants to stay alive. Maddock forces him to take off his clothes and boots, then coldly tells him to walk home barefoot across the desert. Ben obeys and begins making his way across the scorching landscape. Maddock knows there's almost no chance Ben will survive the brutal heat and dehydration before he ever makes it back. If the desert doesn't kill him, the evidence will. Charlie, the elderly prospector, already has one bullet from Ben's rifle in his body. The police will assume Ben killed him, fled the scene, and later died from hunger and thirst while trying to escape. Ben keeps pushing forward across the burning sand. After a while, he reaches a numbered trail marker and reads the number on it. From a distance, Maddock watches every move through his binoculars. He's not leaving until he watches Ben die with his own eyes. Despite the unbearable pain, Ben keeps moving. When he reaches the second trail marker, he suddenly sprints toward a rocky outcrop and disappears from sight among the cliffs. For the first time, Ben slips out of Maddock's view. Maddock sees Ben disappear and immediately races toward the cliffs in his truck. When he gets there, Ben is nowhere to be found. In reality, Ben has slipped into a hidden cave built inside the rocks. It's a secret bunker that belongs to Charlie, the same elderly prospector Maddock shot and killed. Inside, there's a full supply of food and water. The one place Maddock never expected becomes Ben's only chance. Ben drinks water first, finally easing his unbearable thirst. The walls are covered with photographs, and one of them shows Ben standing beside Charlie. They've known each other for years, and Charlie was like a father to him. Fighting back tears, Ben apologizes for not being able to save his life. Just then, he realizes someone is coming into the cave. He quickly hides a map hanging on the wall and slips into the darkness. Sometimes, survival depends on staying perfectly still. Maddock has arrived. He's convinced Ben is hiding inside the bunker. Instead of searching, he plants explosives, walks back outside, and leaves. Maddock isn't trying to find Ben anymore. He's trying to bury him. Moments later, a massive explosion rips through the bunker. The entire place collapses into a pile of rubble, but Ben is lucky. He escaped through a second exit just before everything came crashing down. As he keeps moving through the desert, Maddock suddenly appears in front of him. Ben survives the blast, only to face Maddock once again. Maddock laughs and tells him, "If you want to go home, then go. But if you try to hide or run again, I'll shoot you from right here." Ben knows Maddock's rifle is extremely advanced and accurate enough to hit him from a long distance. Once again, he has no choice but to continue walking across the blazing desert. Every step forward keeps him alive, but never truly safe. The nearest town is still 45 miles away. Ben secretly kept the map he hid from Maddock, and now he begins following it. Before long, he reaches a place where he and Charlie had once placed an old couch so they could sit and rest. The memories Charlie left behind may become Ben's greatest advantage. Ben tears the foam out of the old couch and straps it to his bare feet. Walking across the burning sand without boots has ripped his feet open, and they're bleeding badly. This spot is hidden from Maddock's view, giving Ben the chance to disappear from his sight once again. Sometimes, the smallest idea is what keeps someone alive. The map says it's a treasure map. Following it, Ben reaches a spot marked with an X. He digs into the ground with his hands and uncovers a small box. Inside are a slingshot and several marbles. He takes them with him and continues following the map. Charlie's hidden supplies are beginning to reveal their purpose. The map leads him to a second marked location. Buried beneath the ground is a bottle of water. Ben's body is severely dehydrated, and his throat is painfully dry. Without wasting a second, he twists off the cap and tries to drink. Out here, even a single bottle of water can feel like a miracle. But just as Ben opens the bottle, a bullet suddenly tears through it. Maddock fired the shot from far away. The bottle flies out of Ben's hands, and every drop of water spills into the sand. The map calls itself a treasure map, and in a desert this brutal, nothing is more valuable than water. Ben probably knew that all along. Now, still desperately thirsty, he has no choice but to keep moving if he wants to survive. Out here, losing one bottle of water is like losing your last chance to live. In the distance, Maddock calmly mixes himself another drink while keeping his eyes locked on Ben the entire entire time. After walking a little farther, Ben's strength finally gives out, and he collapses onto the ground. Maddox drives over and finds him lying completely motionless. Maddox believes the desert has finally finished what he started. To make sure, Maddox fires 2 shots into the ground beside Ben's body. Ben doesn't move at all. Convinced that he's dead, Maddox believes his plan has finally succeeded. Satisfied, he gets back into his truck and drives away. But the desert isn't done writing Ben's story just yet. What Maddox doesn't know is that Ben is still alive. He only pretended to be dead. Once Maddox leaves, Ben gets back on his feet and heads toward a cave on top of a rocky cliff where he used to spend time with his girlfriend. He remembers there should be water there, and that's exactly what he's hoping to find. Sometimes, hope is the only thing keeping him on his feet. As Ben climbs the rocks, Maddox is talking to his associate on the phone when he suddenly spots Ben still alive. Furious, he immediately opens fire, sending a barrage of bullets toward him. Somehow, Ben manages to dodge the gunfire and makes it safely inside the cave where he expects to find water. But survival never comes as easily as Ben hopes. Unfortunately, the cave is completely dry. Enraged, Ben realizes there's no water left. Outside, Maddox keeps shouting for him to surrender, insisting that no one can save him now. Ben ignores him and decides to wait until nightfall so he can escape under the cover of darkness. The darkness is now Ben's only remaining ally. Night finally falls, and Maddox leaves his truck's headlights aimed directly at the cave where Ben is hiding. Ben quietly slips out through another exit. He notices Maddox drinking outside and uses the opportunity to grab his jacket from the truck because the desert becomes freezing cold after sunset. When Maddox returns to the truck, he immediately realizes Ben has been there. One small mistake is all it takes for the hunt to begin again. Maddox quickly starts the truck and throws it into reverse. Ben is lying directly underneath it, but manages to roll behind a pile of rocks just in time. Maddox then throws a deadly explosive toward him. Ben pulls out the slingshot he found earlier, loads a marble, and fires. The shot hits Maddox squarely in the head, knocking him unconscious instantly. The weapon Maddox ignored becomes the one that finally stops him. When Maddox wakes up, he's tied up with ropes in the back of the truck. Morning has arrived, and Ben is standing outside. Ben drives straight to the sheriff's office and tells the entire truth, explaining how Maddox brutally murdered his friend Charlie. At last, the truth reaches the people who need to hear it. Ben also hands the sheriff the money Maddox paid him to keep quiet. With that evidence, Maddox's crime is fully exposed. Ben walks over to him, vents his anger, and says everything he's been holding back. A little later, Maddox says he needs to use the restroom. It looks like justice has finally caught up with Maddox. A few moments later, the loud sound of a helicopter echoes overhead. Ben runs outside and sees Maddox climbing into it before taking off right in front of everyone's eyes. Using his smartwatch, Maddox secretly contacted his associate, who arrived just in time to help him escape. Even in custody, Maddox finds one last way to slip away. After surviving the entire nightmare, Ben decides he'll never work as a desert guide again. He moves to the city, reunites with his girlfriend, tells her everything that happened, and promises that from now on, he'll always stay by her side because he's leaving that life behind forever. Some experiences change a person for the rest of their life.
One night, while Ben is sleeping peacefully beside his girlfriend, he suddenly has a terrifying nightmare. Maddox is standing in front of him with a gun, ready to pull the trigger. Ben wakes up in panic and realizes no one is there. But the moment he closes his eyes again, he hears Maddox's voice for real. This time, Maddox is actually standing in the room with a gun pointed at him. The nightmare isn't over. It's standing right in front of him. Smiling, Maddox says, "You got away last time, but now no one can save you." Just as he's about to fire, Ben's girlfriend shoots him from behind. Ever since Ben gave her the handgun, she has faithfully kept it under her pillow every night, exactly as she promised. One promise made long ago finally saves Ben's life. Ben immediately draws his own gun and fires as well. Maddox collapses and dies on the spot, bringing his deadly rampage to an end once and for all. And with that, today's story comes to an end. In the end, the desert couldn't stop Ben, but Maddox finally met his own fate. Some people escape death, but never escape the memories. If stories like this stay with you, stay with KTS Mosan, because some nightmares don't end, they just become silent.